Got a question. Ever felt like your thoughts get tangled up? Like they make sense in your head but not out loud? Welcome to Leave It to Larimore, the space where we slow down, speak up, and sort it all out. No experts, no script, just real talk, real people, and a real understanding. I'm your host, Brian Larimore, and together we're untangling life, one conversation at a time. Let's talk about it. So yeah, we're back with another conversation with Leave It to Larimore. Today's conversation is somewhat of could be considered a tad bit controversial, but it's definitely one I think that deserves at least to be heard out in a sense. So we were having a conversation, and and when I say we, I'm referring to my aunt and my brother. We were out to dinner, and my nephew, and I believe my cousin was with us, my sister-in-law. We were all together, and my aunt, after dinner, we were all sitting around, and she kind of made a statement, and I'm paraphrasing in a sense. You men in this family are something else. You guys are so over-accommodating, and you yield no accountability. So you just give, and you don't mind if you get anything in return or not, and I just don't understand it. And so I looked at her and I looked, and without really a second, I responded, well, it's your fault. And definitely shockingly, she looked and she was trying to figure out exactly where I got that from. And I said, well, you raised us to be polite and gentlemen and respectful and courteous and mindful, and you wanted us to be great providers and protectors, and you taught us how to be gentlemen and chivalrous and polite and just, everything accommodating. I said, but you never taught us what to expect or how to expect to be treated by a woman. So with that, of course, that look was like, whoa, where did this come from? And at that point, I realized that, yeah, we haven't had this conversation. And I knew at that point there was some accountability that needed to be spread. And so to have the expectation that we as men are taught to give and give and give and do and be without showing us how to vet who we give that to is a very interesting conversation, because at that point you're teaching us that all women deserve this treatment regardless of what we get in return. And I only bring this up because we have to somewhat look at the origin of a thing. And again, no therapist, no professional, but definitely experienced. And in this area, looking at relationships and how I've managed to have so many failed ones, and looking at the accountability factor that I have to take in consideration, because I definitely was the person that was present in every last one of those relationships. So I know that I have to take that accountability in a sense to where, what is it that I contributed to the demise of the relationship? And some of that is my upbringing and misunderstanding and frustration in not being able to process those events and how they have come across. And so if I'm giving and giving and giving and frustrated because I'm not feeling as if there is a sense of reciprocation that is being included in the relationship, then that causes the frustration that somewhat takes us to the separation and ultimately the demise of the relationship. And so if I really have to take that into consideration, I have to go back and say, well, why wasn't I taught who to give that energy to? And if that be the case, how would I have been taught? Well, I would have been taught by someone explaining, well, if you are doing this, this, and this, and you're not seeing this, this, and this, then that person is not the person. Not try harder. And just for, conversation's sake, is it, and please hear me with my heart, and not necessarily just with the words, but sincerely, could it possibly be that we were raised to be the men that some women didn't have, versus being the men that needed to be spoken to like a king, as we refer to our counterparts as queens? So how can we have so many queens and not speak to the king that lies within that man? And it has to go back to the place where if we ever taught him his expectation and what he should look for in the person that deserves every bit of the qualities and the essence of what most women prefer. If that woman is deserving of that, how are we able to determine whether or not I should give this to her or not? Oftentimes, those of us who have children, we teach them to open the door for women often. That is kind of what we initially kind of set forth as a stature of being a gentleman, is to open the door. And even us who have ladies as daughters, we teach them as an expectation to look for the man who knows how to open the door. How often is it taught that once she gets in the car, for her to reach over and open the door for him? Not saying that it's never done, but how often is that taught in comparison to him opening the door? I think adding that slight bit of balance could play a major part in just the understanding of reciprocation. And it teaches that you give, it is okay to receive. It teaches that you receive, that is also okay to give. I believe that we have a balance that needs to be established between everyone, but I think understanding some of the ways that we were raised and reared gives more of a context to how we actually view life. And oftentimes we're frustrated with those counterparts because they don't see the things that we see the way that we see them, without taking in consideration where they were established and where they came from and how they were raised, and putting all of that into context as to see how this human came to this point of thought. And so I think that oftentimes if we kind of just look at mama and daddy and granny and see what was put in a person, because oftentimes only what's put in you is going to come out of you. And so if we're able to at least acknowledge, that there could have been a difference in how we were raised, it may open the opportunity for you to consider the fact that that person may not necessarily be wrong, they just may be different. And how we are raised has a part in that. So one question that I'll ask, and again, you can go to leaveittolarrymore.com and check out the web page, and it's a place where